Hey, random people out there on the internet. This is the next in the series for beginners where we started project number 2, which is a birdhouse. So if you've been following along, I cut 2x4 into strips and then glued them together. So now the next step is the planning phase. So we'll take a look here. I've marked this F and B for front and back. So this will be the front and the back of the birdhouse. It's not going to be a very big birdhouse. We didn't have that much material. But it's critical, more or less, to have the front and the back be the same length so that when we put it together, it's nice and square. I've already done this. Basically, I taped these together and I went over to my miter saw and I cut them off on both sides so that they're nice and flush and nice and even. The next step is to decide how much of a pitch I want to put on the roof. I've decided to go with 22.5 degrees. For you carpenters out there, that's a 612. In any event, that's halfway of 45. So what we do is we can go ahead and tape it together again, nice and flush. And maybe one time around this way. The idea of taping it is to keep the boards from shifting and cutting them both at the same time. By doing this, you ensure that the front and the back are going to be exactly identical to one another. So we'll step over to the miter saw. Good compound miter saw will allow you to cut angles of varying degrees, and it'll actually lock down at 22.5 because it's a very common angle to be used for cuts. Now the 22.5 will have to be on there like this. Since I don't want my fingers all up in the stuff over there, I'm going to try to find a way to clamp this thing down where it needs to be. Without interfering with the action of my saw. So, look, slow man at work. Bear with me. Oh, come on now. Here we go. I'm going to stay on the outside of that line on both sides so it'll be nice and symmetrical. And we're going to clamp that down so it doesn't move about while I'm trying to cut it. I'm grab my earphones and turn on my vacuum cleaner. And we'll make that cut. We're going to move it to the other side so we can put our stuff on here. Yeah, like this. Rotate our saw 22.5 degrees the other way. Lock down our material in the right place. And not quite where I want it. And this is causing my board to flip up. So let's try just a little bit different. There we go. So now we have two pieces that are identical for the front and the back of our birdhouse. Blue tape is worth its weight in gold if used properly. Now, we need to use our imagination to think about how this is going to be. I have the side pieces, left and right, and you'll see they aren't the same size exactly. So once again, we're going to correct that. We don't know the length yet, but we know that the width needs to be equal. So again, taping them both together, we're going to go over to the table saw and we're going to rip this edge here that's not nice and parallel. They're actually same size. Don't want to rip off too much. We want to keep as much of that material as we can. So we're going to set that sucker right about there and lock it down. Now, we're going to set our blade so that it's just barely through the material. Make sure that these are both pushed up right against that fence. I believe that's going to work. Go ahead and put a feather board on there to keep it from moving around. Now we have two boards that are the same width for our sides. You know, a little more imagination. We're going to imagine that this is going to be together like this so we get as much length as we can front to back, because we don't have a lot of material to work with. And then this guy will be sitting up like this. So now we will need to cut this to where it won't be above our roof. So I'm going to need a pin. Timber. The easiest way I think to do this, just go ahead and line that sucker up here. Put a little tick mark on there. And in theory, And it's about the same length over here, but it isn't quite. Okay, so this isn't perfectly in the middle. I don't think the bird's going to care. And like I said the other day, I know I don't. So this is left side. And then this will be the right side. Get us a square. Make that line. Switch over the dust collector. Turn on the vacuum. Oh, before that, let's go ahead and, yeah, I figured it out. Go over to the miter saw. Put back to 90 degrees. Put this on in. So that we put right at that line. We'll stand this little dude up again. We'll put that sucker right there. Put that right there. You put this one over here. And now we have the forward sides of the birdhouse. And as I stated in a video prior, that is essentially a box. I said that about several things earlier this week when I did the other videos. We're building boxes here. So let's assume for the moment we got what we want. And we look at the material I've selected for the roof, which would go like this. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same methodology to determine how big I want my roof to be, in that the lesser of the two here, we'll rip them to the same width so that we have equal widths. And then we'll cut it off, maybe an inch overhang on this side. Won't be much on the front and back, but that's fine. And we'll cut us a hole here for the birds to go in and out. So for now, you've seen what I've done to do those types of cuts. So I won't bore you with this, but just to remind you, what I'll do is I'll end up taping these together. I'll run it through the table saw so that they're the same width. And then I'll take them over to the miter saw and cut them to length at the same time so that we end up with a symmetrical looking roof that's going to go off like that. The last thing that I'll do is figure out how I'm going to make the bottom of the birdhouse. I've decided I'd go ahead and use some of this melamine that I have that was cut off from something else I rebuilt for somebody. In any event, I'll cut this off and it will be up underneath it, but inset, because this stuff doesn't hold up very well to moisture. So we want to make sure that we recess it. That is, it's going to be like this as opposed to like this. You're going to get to see all that in subsequent videos. But for now, that's going to be about it. I appreciate your views, appreciate your comments. Especially appreciate those who have chosen to subscribe to my channel, which reached 117 or so. So it's not viral, but that's not bad for an old man with a saw. Keep on watching, share with others that might enjoy watching these very simple builds that I'm doing in the beginner series. Once we get done with the birdhouse, I'm going to start introducing more and more of the tools I use in my shop that will take and be able to make a project that is a little crisper, a little cleaner, won't have the roughness of this and so on and so forth. Because as you get better at what you do, it'll be time to make a decision as to whether you want to continue to do it, and if so, what tools should you add to your arsenal next? Again, thanks for your views, and as always, stay safe.